Trout thrive in the cold, clear streams found in many mountainous and northern regions of the United States. Americans devote a lot of time to angling in streams or lakes for these fish, which are highly valued for their contribution to the economy and culture of the United States.
However, dams, water diversions, pollution, and development threaten trouts, which have already disappeared from many of the streams they once inhabited. Climatic warming poses an additional, potentially severe threat to their survival. The Earth has warmed during the last 50 years, and most of the observed warming is believed to have been caused by increased concentrations of carbon dioxide and other heat-trapping gases. Because trouts are known to be intolerant of warm water, their distribution and abundance could be threatened if future climate change warms the streams they inhabit. But what is climate change?
Well, climate change refers to long-term shifts in temperatures and weather patterns. These shifts may be natural, such as through variations in the solar cycle, but since the 1800s, human activities have been the main driver of climate change, primarily due to burning fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gas. Burning fossil fuels generates greenhouse gas emissions that act like a blanket wrapped around the Earth, trapping the sun's heat and raising temperatures.
Examples of greenhouse gas emissions that are causing climate change include carbon dioxide and methane. These come from using gasoline for driving a car or coal for heating a building. For example, clearing land and forests can also release carbon dioxide. Landfills for garbage are a major source of methane emissions. Energy industry, transport, buildings, agriculture, and land are among the main emitters. As a result, the Earth is now about 1.1 degrees Celsius warmer than it was in the late 1800s.
Because everything on Earth is a connected system, changes in one area can influence changes in all the others. The consequences of climate change now include, among others, intense droughts, water scarcity, severe fires, melting polar ice, and rising sea levels, flooding, catastrophic storms, and declining biodiversity. But the important question here is, how does climate change affect the aquatic ecosystem?
If we focus on the ecosystem in rivers where the trout population is found, then there are many factors, like increasing the stream temperature, causing a decrease in oxygen levels, altering stream flows due to the droughts, and increased storms. Climate change disrupts the habitat, recovery, and protection of cold water fish species, like trouts. Cold and cool water fish may be replaced by other species that are better adapted to warmer water. Warmer air and waters may expand the range of invasive species coming to that specific area. The species that can't adapt to that rapid change will unfortunately become extinct.
That sounds familiar.
Exactly. If those species can't adapt, reproduce, nor survive, then natural selection will take action.
So let's take a look at the trout next. Trout need cold water to survive. Cooler water temperature allows water to hold more oxygen. Areas along streams and rivers, or riparian areas, provide shade and help to cool the water. Because they are mostly vegetated, it also prevents weathering, filters pollutants, and provides shelter and food for fish. Protecting these areas is crucial for the survival of the trout.
Oh, the natural path of rivers is another important factor for the mortality of trouts. Unaltered rivers and streams moderate water flow through natural hydrology, and fish can adjust to changing conditions.
Man-made changes in water flow can limit wild trout production by increasing the magnitude and duration of extreme conditions such as floods and droughts.
For example, hydroelectric operations and water withdrawals can impact trout by manipulating the natural environment.
Michigan's unusually warm winter temperatures in the last few years has caused an increase in the water temperature in rivers, lakes, and seas. This means there is less food and oxygen available for trout.
And it also means the fish may not fully grow. Some species will become extinct if temperature rise even by 1 or 2 degrees. This causes the trout to flee to the river's tributaries, searching for oxygen-richer waters.
In some places, the effects of climate change manifest an immediate catastrophe. Intensifying weather patterns, such as hurricanes, have gradually added stress to the ecosystem, making it harder for wildlife to adapt. Just a small change in temperature can have a massive impact on these resources. Trout are an indicator species in the river ecosystem, meaning that their well-being reflects the health of the ecosystem. Likewise, unhealthy populations are an alarm bell. The poor water quality conditions that cause trout to suffer are likely also stressing invertebrates and other biota.
Flooding is another stressor. Flooding is another stressor. Flooding is another stressor. What the Flooding is another stressor that is intensified by temperature swings. Recent years have seen more severe temperature swings during the springtime when the snowpack begins to melt. This intensifies flooding events, which can sweep away trout eggs and plummet a generation of young fish who aren't yet strong swimmers. If that happens once, it's okay, but after a few years, if that happens again and again, it isn't sure if the population will recover.
Another effect is that predatory warm-water fishes are intruding into the warming waters and decimating the cold-water trout population. For example, in the Great Lakes, consistently elevated temperatures allowed invasive zebra mussels to colonize, transforming the ecosystem's food chain and nutrient flow beyond repair. So, how can we turn the tide? The root cause of the issue is global climate change, which can only be addressed by rapidly curbing carbon emissions. But in the meantime, mitigation techniques can be the difference between whether a fish population persists in an area or succumbs to the environmental pressures. The most straightforward solution is to limit overfishing, but immediate action concerning the carbon emissions cannot be overbearing, as our livelihoods as humans depend on the causation of said emissions.
Because of the climate change, the ice starts to melt and the sea level rises, and the rivers, lake, etc. get too warm. This increase in temperatures make the aquatic ecosystem uninhabitable for trout.
In conclusion, climate change has a more immediate effect than we realize on not only trout populations, but also our population as well. The conservation of these species is important, not only morally, but also economically.
And recreationally.